So, good day, everyone. Today, we will present our survey on privacy in media and information literacy with youth perspective. So, in this presentation, we will tackle economic perspective, social perspective, political perspective, environmental perspective, and gender equality perspective. So, for this report, we surveyed 70 Filipino youth to gather this perspective. The respondents were equally divided between rural and urban areas, with 35 participants from rural communities and 35 participants from urban communities. So, this allowed us to compare how youth from different environments view economic, social, political, environmental, and gender equality perspective. Now, let's begin with economic perspective. So before we start, I want to ask you what comes in your mind when you hear the word economy?
Money, job,
Okay, thank you guys. So usually people would say money, jobs, prices, businesses. But actually, economy is more than that. So economic perspective is about how money, jobs, and opportunities affects our life. It affects our education, our career, our future. So if you have money and resources, you have more choices. If not, your options becomes limited. Also, youth are important because we're not just students, we are future workers and leaders. And the decisions we make today can greatly affect our country's future. So, what should youth understand about economics? First, inflation, that prices go up over time. That's why 100 pesos today cannot buy the same in the future. Second, scarcity, that resources are limited. We cannot have everything, so we need to choose. Third is opportunity cost. So when you choose something, you have to give up something else. For example, spending money means less savings. Fourth is supply and demand. Supply is how much is available, and demand is how much people want it. And this affects prices. So when we understand it, we understand real life better, that prices are not random. So we have here supply, demand, and prices. So if the supply is low, the demand is high, the prices go up. Like if we're all thirsty and there's only one water bottle, we might pay 200 pesos for it because we see its importance. But if the supply is high, the demand is low, so the prices goes down. So when businesses overproduce products and demand is low, they usually lower prices to sell their products more quickly. But if both are balanced, then that prices are normal, then it stays the same. It's normal. Now let's connect this to the Philippines. Right now, the Philippines is facing rising inflation. Prices go up, but incomes stay the same. High cost of basic goods. So, food, transportation, and electricity are more expensive. Third is job competition. So, many people want jobs, but there are only few that are available. And lastly, wages concerns. Even with a job, salary is not enough. Now, I want to ask you, how would you describe the Philippine economy today? Is it improving, stable, or worsening?
worsening, I guess.
Yes. So
Worsening
to
po.
okay. So to compare your answers from our survey respondents, most of them said that the economy is getting worse. This means that Filipino youth are becoming more aware of the country's economic problems and the challenges this brings to the society. So as we can see here, from rural area, majority of our respondents with 94.3% said worsening, and same as urban area, 85.7% said worsening. So inflation affects daily life, like food prices. Food becomes more expensive, transportation, fare increases because fuel prices increases. Third is electricity bills. So electricity bills go up because of power production depends on fuel. So when fuel prices go up, of course, electricity also goes up. So another question we asked in our survey is, are opportunities fair for all youth regardless of family background? We have different responses from both areas, but they agree that not opportunities for all Filipino youth are distributed fairly. So both area has different kinds of explanation. For rural areas, we have fewer schools and jobs, financial struggles, and fewer opportunities. Some also need to studying early and start working at a young age. Whereas in urban, we have here opportunities favors those with higher family income, better education needs money, and connections matter. So as you can see here, in rural, it's more about limited access to resources, whereas in urban, it's more about opportunities and connection. So not everyone has equal chances. So youth also face employment challenges. We have here fewer job that requires experience, low starting salaries, and few job opportunities. So if you're qualified, it's still hard. That's why many people choose to work abroad. Now I want to ask you guys, would you consider working abroad for better opportunities?
Yes.
So just like you guys, most of our respondents also said yes. Not because they want to leave the country, but because they want better pay and opportunities. Another question asked in the survey was, is it hard work alone enough to succeed economically in the Philippines? So the responses showed different opinions, but the majority from both areas disagreed. This implies that many people believe success also depends on other factors such as opportunities, education, financial stability, and support from others. And the last question asked on our survey was, what changes can improve the country? Since they have similar answers, these are the common answers from both area: higher salary, more job opportunities, higher wages, better education, less corruption, stronger economy. So with this, Filipino youth are more aware of our country's major problems and believe that improving economic conditions, education, and governance can help create a better future. So, in conclusion, youth plays a key role in the country's future, but many faces financial struggles, limited jobs, and unequal opportunities. And hard work alone isn't enough. Education, skills, and fair access are essential for success. Being informed about these challenges helps youth make better decisions, adapt, and contribute positively to the economy and society. And that ends my presentation on economic perspective. Next, we will move to social perspective, which explains how society influences our behavior, decisions, and daily life. It encourages us to question what we often take for granted and see our society with fresh curiosity. Let us welcome our next presenter, Philip Andrew Dalida.
Thank you, Ms. Billiones. In this part of the presentation, we'll explore how young people understand social issues using social perspective, especially in relation to the Sustainable Development Goals or SDGs. But first, let us define what is social perspective. Social or sociological perspective involves understanding that people's behavior, beliefs, and life chances are shaped by social factors. An example of these social factors are the following: the family, school, and in the culture. To gain a more deeper understanding of the definition of social perspective, let us look to some example of these social factors. The first one is in the family, is this one. A child who doesn't study. A child who doesn't study in a personal point of view, or people might assume that a child who doesn't study is lazy or not smart. But when we look at it in the social perspective point of view, it looks at the family and society and consider the social factors such as, is the family poor? Child help with the church instead of doing his or her homework. Another one would be is this one. The parents are too stressed or too busy to support the child, or there's no quiet place to study Another possible reason would be is this one. The family lacks school equipment such as books and internet. This shows that child struggle is not just bad behavior, but also shaped by family condition. And the next example is in the school. Is this one. A student who always fail. A student, then again, who always fail in a personal point of view, or people might assume that a student who always fail is not trying or not smart. But in relation to this discussion, which is social perspective, it looks at the social perspective point of view. It looks at the society and school behind that student situation and consider the social factors such as the school have weak teachers or no clear guidance. Maybe also the student is experiencing bullying that might affect his or her academic performance. This demonstrates that failure is not just students' fault, but also shaped by school condition. And the last example is in the culture. I think we are very familiar with this one is the mano po gesture. People who doesn't know the meaning of this gesture might call you polite or not rude. But when we look at it in the deeper point of view, or BTS, the behind the scene in this situation, the social perspective point of view, and consider the social factors such as how does Filipino cultures teaches kids from a very young age to respect elderlies, or how the environment had different rules about respect. This shows that social perspective is about cultural norms, not about one culture being better than the others. Hence, social perspective means looking at people's action or problems in the context of the society and group they're part of, not just individual choices. In simpler terms, it shows that how our behavior is influenced by these social factors. Now that we have understood the definition of social perspective, let's proceed to the different levels of perspective, starting with the international perspective. Under the international perspective is the Youth and SDG Goal number 4, Quality Education. It aims to promote high quality education and life learning opportunities. Under the high quality education is this one. Lock in and study. When we focus, collaborate, and keep learning, we can acquire the knowledge and skills. The aim is to ensure that everyone can gain the necessary knowledge and skills needed for them to succeed. Another one is this one. Education should result to relevant and effective learning outcomes. This means that students should not only learn about theories, but also practical skills that they can apply in real life. Another important goal of this SDG is life learning opportunities. Life learning opportunity means education should provide key skills for employment, decent jobs, and entrepreneurship. This shows an important idea that opportunities are available, but without the right skills, it becomes difficult to reach them. This means that skills are just important as opportunities. In relation to the survey that we have conducted, we asked the respondent the following question. The first question that was asked is, do you think obtaining a degree would help you land a good job? Majority of the respondents from the rural area answered strongly agree with 85.7% or 30 out of 35 of the rural respondent. While also for urban respondent, majority then again from them answered strongly agree with 57.1%, which is equivalent to 20 out of 35. This shows that most youth believes education plays an important role in employment, but the level of confidence differs between the two groups. In the rural respondent, they see educational degrees as an important way to get a job and become successful. Meanwhile, for urban respondents, may have different opinions because they know that skills, experience, and other career paths can also help persons succeed. And the next question is, do senior high school prepare us for work after graduating? Majority then again from the respondent from the rural area answered strongly agree with 71.4% or 25 out of 35. And also for urban respondent, strongly agree with 57.1%, which is equivalent to 20 out of 35 from the urban respondent. This indicates confidence in the senior high school program that it can help students, that can help rural students also more satisfied with the preparation provided, while urban respondent may expect more advanced skills and opportunities. And the last question that was asked is this one. The senior high school program offers courses and subjects that prepare us for work after graduating. Majority of the respondents from the rural area answered strongly agree with 94.3% or 33 out of 35. While for the urban respondent, it is obvious in there that it is strongly agree with 100% or which is equivalent to 35 out of 35. This shows that both rural and urban respondents strongly agree that senior high school program offers courses and subjects that help students gain job-related knowledge and skills. Now, still under the international perspective is the Youth and SDG goal number 1, which is no poverty. It aims to eliminate poverty in all its form everywhere. An example of this poverty are the following. First one is long-term unemployment. When people do not have access to proper education and opportunities, finding a stable jobs would become difficult for them. As a result, they may remain unemployed for a very long period of time, making it even harder for them to escape poverty. Like what they say, kunwaring nag-charity, nagdala na pala ng resume. The second one is poor working condition. People who are living in poverty are forced to accept unsafe and unhealthy jobs just to survive. These workplaces may lack proper equipment, safety measures, and fair wages. Even though they are employed, their well-being remains at risk, and their income is often insufficient to improve their situation. Another one is low living standards. Poverty also affects the quality of life. As you can see here in the image, families may live in overcrowded or unsafe housing with limited access to clean water, proper sanitations, or basic services. This not only impacts their physical health, but also affects their dignity and overall well-being. And the last one is poor healthcare. Poor healthcare is a serious problem in many communities. It shows a limited medical staff or medical sources. This not only affects their people's health, but also the ability to study, work, and care for their families. That is why access to proper healthcare is very important for every communities. Thus, all of those conditions or poverties make it hard for many people to improve their lives. In relation to the survey that we have conducted, again, we asked the respondent, why are so many Filipinos households still living in poverty? Most of the common answers or common responses from both urban and rural area is limited job opportunities, poor quality jobs, low wages, high cost of living, unequal or limited access to quality education, and corruption and weak governance. But the big difference between them is that in the urban, because of the high population, it leads to some issues such as population pressures and lack of family planning. Also, some issues with mindset, dependence, or lack of initiative. While for the rural respondents, natural disasters and other economic shocks, because they are more vulnerable of this type of disasters, which can make it for them harder to recover quickly. And the next question that was asked, not a question but a description of what they can describe from this image. The first image that was shown is this one. And most common answers or responses from both rural and urban respondents is this one. Lacking poor education system, unequal budget distribution, poor environment. This shows how a poor education system, unequal budget distribution, and an unhealthy learning environment can limit students' opportunities and keep families trapped in poverty. Another image that was shown is this one, the current president of the Philippines. They were asked to what they can describe from this image, and most of the common responses are incompetent, money hungry, murderer, and the human embodiment of greed. It points to weak leadership, corruption, and greed in government, which can prevent resources from reaching the people that needed them the most. Together, these issues make it hard for many Filipino to improve or people to improve their life. Now let's proceed to the national perspective or the Philippine perspective. Under this one is the youth and SDG goal number 3. Healthcare access remains elusive for Filipino youth. In this SDG goal, it aims to promote, achieve universal health care coverage, and increase health financing and support the health workforce. Under the Achieving Universal Health Coverage, it highlights an important idea such as what people needs to stay healthy, such as access to quality essential healthcare services, safe and affordable medicine, and also vaccine for everyone, especially the poor. Another goal was that is increase health financing and support the health workforce. It shows that improving healthcare is not just about facilities, but also having trained professionals and enough healthcare workers, especially in poor areas. In relation to the survey that we have conducted, the and question that was asked to the respondent is this one. Do you think that the wealthy are the only ones who can have more opportunities than the poor? Majority of the respondents from the rural area answered strongly agree with 62.9% or 22 out of 35. And for the urban respondent, majority of them answered strongly agree with 54.3% or 19 out of 35. In relation to this survey questionnaire and to the SDG goal, which is SDG goal number 3, which talks about healthcare, let's differentiate how healthcare is experienced by the poor and the rich. In the rich people or wealthy families, they can afford the best doctors, hospitals, and medical facilities because they have the money and connection to afford these things. While poor families may often depend on undeveloped, understaffed, and cannot provide quality treatment. Because of this inequality, poor families may receive delayed or lower quality treatment. This shows that poverty also affects people's access to proper health care. In conclusion, social perspective is the view that our social backgrounds influences our behavior, attitudes, or even opportunities in life. In these regards, we are not just individuals, but rather social beings deeply involved in the society. And that would be all for the social perspective. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you have learned something new. And the next presenter would be Mr. Gabriel Yi, which will be he talking about the political perspective. Thank you.
So thank you, Mr. Dalida, for your wonderful presentation for social perspective. And now moving on to my part, the political perspective. So next slide, please. Now, what can you tell or say about this image right here?
Rally.
Nobody? Okay, rally. Anyone else? Do you have an idea as to what this image has? No one? Okay, so next slide, please. Now, how about this one? What do you think of this image right here? Can you tell or share your ideas or thoughts of this image right here? Nobody? Okay, next slide, please. Now, if you have thought of a response or something like that, then that would be an example of political perspective. Now, next slide, please. What is political perspective? Well, political perspective in a global context is an approach to understand how power, policies, and events alleviate national boundaries and affect the world collectively. So, an example of this is next slides, please. Number one, the rivalry between China and the US, which has lasted for over 8 to 9 years, which has escalated in 2018 and has almost reached its peak in the present year, which is 2026. Now, another example is, next one, the Strait of Hormuz. Now, the Strait of Hormuz is an essential waypoint or key point in shipping trade or oil and fuel. Now, the country that holds the Strait of Hormuz is Iran, in which has a slight, well, not slight, has a major problem with the US since the US has started an all-out war with the Middle Eastern countries, and Iran has also become part of that war. So, because of the US attacking them in the said war, they have banned all US and allied ships of the US to go through the Strait of Hormuz and find another path to ship their own trades. Now, next slide. Now, an event that can alleviate the world collectively is the UN meetings, in which stands for United Nations meetings, where they implement or add policies that can either change or better the countries within that organization. Now, moving on, we now go to the international perspective. So, what is the international perspective? Well, as explained in the SDG 16, it aims to promote peaceful and inclusive societies, giving access to justice for all, and building effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. So, some key components of these are fundamental, fundamental preconditions, access to justice and rule of law, and human rights framework. Now, this perspective aims for the civilians to have a comfortable life in the nation and for them to roam around freely without any fear of being attacked or such. Now, I will show you some images that can relate to this photo right here or that can sum up as to what the international perspective is trying to aim. So next slide, please. So it aims for balance or world peace. Next slide. It aims for unity and equity for all peoples, whether which ethnicity you are or what race you are. And next slide, please. Lastly, it aims for justice for all the people in the nation. Now, moving on to the local perspective or the Philippine perspective. So in the Philippine perspective, the SDG 16 aims to significantly reduce all forms of violence and related death rates everywhere, like genocide, homicide, and anything that is very harmful to the human person. Now, it aims to promote the rule of law at the national and international levels and ensure equal justice for all. So, some key elements of this perspective right here is, I call this one? Yes. The urgent need for accountability, the civil service engagement, and, well, to remove all corruption. Now, again, as I have done in the international perspective, I will show you 3 images that can sum up as to what the Philippine perspective is trying to aim. So next slide, please. So as portrayed right here, it aims to end all violence or crimes that can harm the individual. Next slide. Next slide, please. So it aims to add policies or implement policies that can better the lives of many. And last but not the least, next slide, please. It promotes the rule of law in the nation in which can better, well, most of the lives of the Filipino people. Now, moving on. Next slide again. We now go to the aspects of international and local or Philippine perspective. Now, first off is the international perspective aspect. So next slide, please. So in the international perspective aspect, it aims to end violence and exploitation. Now imagine this. Next slide, please. Imagine this. You are walking in an alleyway and you just came out of that came out of your, what do you call this, 9 to 5 job, and suddenly a man dressed in all black attire tries to rob you of your wallet, your cash, your phone, your credit card, your debit card, anything that seems valuable to them. Sounds disappointing and very tiring, right? So that is what the international perspective aims to seize or to end entirely, so that the people can have a comfortable life in the nation. Now, next slide, please. So the second one is access to justice and rule of law. So next slide, please. As shown in the images right here, it aims to promote the people to have equality to justice, or to have to have access to justice for all of the people in the nation, and to implement rules of law so that the people will not struggle with any violence such. Now, last slide please for the internal perspective aspect is to build strong institutions. Now, next slide please. Now, the internal perspective is to build strong institutions so that the people can have, so that many more institutions can trust the government and what they're doing to the said nation or country. Now, moving on to the local perspective, or also known as the Philippine perspective aspect. Now, in the Philippine perspective aspect, well, it is somewhat similar to the general perspective aspect. Well, it aims or tends to reduce violence in the nation. Now, as portrayed in the images right here, it is somewhat ironic because in the Philippine perspective, we tend to end violence with the use of violence. Sounds ironic, right? Now, as stated earlier, we tend to reduce violence so that the people can have a comfortable life in the nation and to have a better, to have a better chance of achieving success in the nation. Now, moving on to the second one, it is access to justice. Now, next slide, please. Now, in the Philippine perspective, they aim to give access to justice for all the people so that nobody or no one will suffer from the evil or the corruption within the nation. So as shown here, the people want or yearn for justice for their wrongdoings and such. Now, next slide, please. And last but not least, strengthen institutions. Now, next slide, please. Now, they tend to strengthen institutions so that the bond that they have made with that institutions that they have built upon will strengthen and will have a tighter and a much more strong bondage, or to have a strong trust with the government and such. Now, next slide, please. So, as you have noticed, the Philippine perspective or local perspective tends to reduce, while in the international perspective, it aims to seize or abolish that problem. Now, let me ask you this question. Why does the local perspective or the Philippine perspective tend to reduce, while international perspective aims to seize or abolish that problem? Can anyone tell me or explain to me? Nobody from the audience? Okay, so I will explain why. The local perspective tends to reduce because the Philippines is still a advancing country, or a country that's still enhancing, while some international countries are already advanced enough to state that what they want to end, like corruption, they can because they have the power to do so. Well, we struggle because we are still an advancing country and are still developing our policies into which can aim to seize or can aim to make the impossible possible for us, the civilians, and for our government. Now, next slide, please. Now, I have Now, I have conducted a survey question, but I only um, implemented one questionnaire in the presentation. So the question is, the government is doing a satisfactory job for the people. Now, as shown in the chart right here, whether rural or urban, you can see that many of the youth tend to disagree with the statement. Now, I can't blame them because, well, to be fair, the country is suffering from corruption, from evil doings and evil deeds, and from biases in which, like example, connections or from family members that are a part of a major organization or the government, in which they can assist you with their power in that stated government or organization. So yeah, the government is doing a satisfactory job for the people, so the youth really tend to disagree with the statement because, well, the government isn't doing a satisfactory job due to corruption and such. Now, next slide, please. Now, how are youth involved in this and why? Well, next slide, please. To sum it all up, the youth are the future of our nation. They are the ones reliable as to voting whether or not that politician or that individual is reliable or worthy of ruling the country or looking over our civilians or the citizens. They are responsible as to whether or not they shall educate the younger generation or the older generation who are unaware or do not have any insight of any proper political perspective or political engagement and such. Now, next slide, please. So, why is political perspective important? Well, it is important because we can gain insight, information, and awareness as to whether or not that policy is good for all of the people in the nation or only good to those who are chosen, like to those who are, what do you call this? To the government officials or to those who just pay to have a better life in the nation and do not care to those who are suffering from it. Now, next slide, please. So, in conclusion, political perspective is important because we can gain awareness, insight, and can learn as to whether or not that policy or that political institution is only good for the chosen ones or better for all the people in the nation. So that is all for the political perspective. And now, moving on to Mr. Josiah Cornelio for his explanation on the environmental perspective.
So thank you, Gab, for your wonderful report about political youth perspectives. And yes, let us now proceed to the environmental youth perspective. But before we start, let me ask you about what can you say about this photo? Next slide, please. Anyone? What can you say about this photo?
Exactly into the photo on that part, I think it's a lot of so this point. I on the other side, I think a lot of abstract knowledge. So, yeah.
Yes, this photo depicts the differences between urban and rural. So let us explain first what is an environmental perspective of youth. So environmental perspectives of youth refer to the thoughts, beliefs, awareness, and attitude and actions of young people toward environmental issues and the natural environment. It explains how youth understand environmental problems such as pollution, climate change and deforestation, and waste management, as well as how they respond to these issues based on their experiences, surroundings, and access to information. So the question is, how do youth perspectives differ between rural and urban areas? So to answer that, we will look at these three things. Next slide, please. First is how aware they are. Next is how they feel. And lastly, how they respond to environmental issues, while also comparing the differences between urban and rural youth. So first, let us recognize that there are many environmental issues affecting us today, such as, next slide, please, such as waste pollution. Next is waste management. Next is the deforestation, and lastly, the climate change. And the important thing is these environmental issues affect both rural and urban areas. However, next please. However, even if we face the same problems, our perspectives can be different. So let us now start with the urban. Let's meet one of our respondents. She is our informant for our urban area. She mentioned that, next please. She mentioned that in urban areas, young people are usually exposed to more information. But before we proceed to what she shared, let us first recognize what we will tackle in both perspectives. So first is their awareness level. Second is the common concerns. Third is the attitudes and actions. And lastly is the challenges. So as she mentioned, urban areas are more exposed to information through social media, education, and environmental campaigns. Next slide, please. So because of this, their awareness level is generally high, although sometimes their understanding can still be mixed. Next slide, please. When it comes to common concerns, they often worry about air pollution, plastic waste, and emissions caused by heavy traffic. Next is in terms of their attitudes and actions, many of them try to help by participating in online activism, recycling, and choosing eco-friendly lifestyles. And last is they also face challenges such as city life is fast-paced, consumerism is very common. Because of this, they sometimes feel disconnected from nature. Also, even if they are aware, they don't always have the chance to do hands-on environmental work. So overall, urban youth are connected yet concerned. Next, please. They are informed but sometimes limited in action. Now let us proceed to the rural youth perspective. So let us meet our respondent. He is our informant for our rural area. So he mentioned that in rural areas, their awareness comes from direct experience with nature. Next, please. We will also tackle the same uh, perspectives of what we mentioned earlier with our urban area. So, as he mentioned, that their awareness comes from direct experience with nature. They don't just learn from media, they actually live through environmental changes. So, their common concerns include deforestation, farming challenges, water supply issues, and natural disasters. Because these problems directly affect their daily lives, they understand their impact deeply. So when it comes to their attitudes and actions, they are more on hands-on work. They take part in farming, conservation efforts, and protecting natural resources. However, they also experience challenges such as access to environmental education and resources is limited, and sometimes issues like corruption can affect environmental efforts. Despite that, rural youth are grounded in nature. They have strong place-based knowledge and a growing awareness of climate risks, especially in areas affected by disasters. So, next slide, please. So now let us go back to our main question. How do youth perspectives differ between rural and urban areas? Urban youth have greater access to information and are highly aware, but may lack direct experience and hands-on involvement. While in rural youth perspective, on the other hand, have deeper personal experience with nature and environmental issues, but may have limited access to education and resources. So, in conclusion, urban and rural youth have different but equally valuable environmental perspectives shaped by their environment and experiences. One is more informed and connected through information, while the other is more experienced and connected through action. Both perspectives matter. Even if we bring these strengths together, we can be we can better respond to environmental challenges. So urban and rural youth have different but equally valuable environmental perspectives shaped by their environment and experiences. So that's all. Thank you so much for listening. And now I will give the time to Ryan Lumigid as he presents and explains the gender equality and how significant are the youth perspective is on this topic. So Ryan, take it away.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carillo Josiah. And hello, everyone. I'm here to present my topic, gender equality. So, as digital space continue to shape how young individuals communicate and express themselves, understanding privacy and major responsibility has never been more important. Every post, comment, and shared content can impact not only personal safety, but also how we treat and respect others. Media and information literacy, or the MIL, gives youth the tools to make informed choices, stand up for equality, and protect their identity. This survey seeks to explore how young individuals value their privacy and promote fairness in the digital world, creating a more respectful and inclusive digital citizenship. Let me give you an example. Next slide, please. For example, you take a photo of yourself, as in just a photo of yourself. Next slide. And then you decided to post it on social media, for example, Facebook. You post it on Facebook without caption or even a hashtag, but suddenly the whole barangay knows who's your crush, where is your location, and even what is your favorite snack. Like what? That's why understanding privacy matter. And being a media literate means know what to share and what to keep just for yourself, while also respecting others regardless of their gender. So, as I talk, some of you may be probably wondering, is this even matter? Or is this even important when it comes to these privacy threats on social media? Next slide. Or the question is, why does it matter? Digital are integral to our daily life, but privacy risks are unequal. Women and marginalized groups face greater harm like target harassment and non-sensual data sharing. Luckily, there's an MIL to help us because MIL is the key to building safe online environment. Next slide. As connected to my topic, we conducted a survey questionnaire to gather information or gather perspective to the youth. So in my first question on my part, do you believe gender equality is important for the well-being of young people in our community? But before we discuss this question or the responses of our participant, next slide please, let's discuss this image. Earlier, Josiah already talked about this. This is rural and urban area. When it comes to social media, accessibility, next slide, and internet matter because we all know that the accessibility and internet can, I mean, it's hard to find in rural area. So that's make the gap or the difference when gathering the perspective on rural and urban youth, because on the rural area they having a hard time to connect to social media because of accessibility and internet. Do you guys get it? Can you give me some reaction for me to able na nagets nyo yung top mga sinasabi ko? Okay, thank you very much. Next slide. So again, let's discuss the question. Do you believe gender equality is important for the well-being of young people in our community? Next slide. Okay, on rural area, 48% disagree, while 42% strongly agree and 10% agree. While in urban area, 22% disagree, 14% agree, and 64% strongly agree. So next slide. The rural or in rural area, majority recognize its importance, through a small number still hold traditional views, while in urban, stronger and clearer belief in its value, showing greater awareness and acceptance. Overall, both groups agree it is important because urban, the respondents show strong conviction, while on rural, respondents show general acceptance. Next slide, please. Another one is this image, which is I tell me something about this. Tell me something about this image. Next slide, please. Okay. On rural area, they talk about, or in summary, they all answer about people being equal, united, and diverse. While in urban area, they talk about the gender equality, acceptance of LGBTQ, freedom of expression. Next slide. And implication for this rural views I focus on basic concept of fairness, unity, and togetherness. While in urban area, understanding is broader, covering specific ideas like equal rights, inclusions, and freedom of expression. Overall, both understand the core idea of equality. Rural views are simple and community centered, while urban views are more detailed and inclusive. Next slide, please. Next is the gender privacy challenges. Digital privacy risks are inherently gender, with women and marginalized groups disproportionately affected. Tewell's model links to technology design, social norm, and to these behaviors online. While the research confirmed high rates of cyber scrutiny and non-consensual data sharing. Um, next slide. So basically, in gender privacy challenges, privacy matters. Next slide. On gender privacy challenges, these are the common example. First is the target online stalking or surveillance. We all know what is stalking is, where a person goes through or scroll to someone's social media or stalk look for more information about this person. And the next one is non-consensual distribution of image or videos. It's basically sharing information or posting something without the consent of the owner. Next slide, please. The next slide is the gender-based cyberbullying or hate speech. We all know what is cyberbullying. Where on they're bullying a person through online. And next slide. The next one is the database collection affecting access to services, where there's something like yung cyber attack, where on hacking the account of someone to leak very important document, that by that the database collection will affect the access to services. So next, earlier I mentioned okay, again, to connected to my presentation to the our survey. The question is: should school take action to prevent gender-based bullying and discrimination? Why? Next slide. On the rural area, the answers, in short, the personal harm, loss of confidence, and basic equality. While in urban, they answered inclusivity, legal or moral duty, diverse, and social progress. Next slide. The rural focuses on the protecting individual from harm, emotional damage, and unfair treatment. While the urban areas focuses on building inclusive environments, fulfilling legal duties, and promoting social progress. Overall, both agree schools must act. Rural views center on individual protection, while urban views focuses on broader social and institution responsibilities. Next slide. Earlier, as I mentioned, or as I discussed the gender privacy challenges, I mentioned the T-Wolves model that links to technology design, social norm, and behaviors to those behaviors online. But basically, what is T-Wolves model? Next slide. T-Wolves model is a theoretical framework by Mike T-Wolves that examined how gender privacy shape privacy perception that shape privacy perception and behaviors online. It builds on offline. Research showing how real world experiences like privacy threat and social norm translating into digital context influencing how different gender manage risk. Next slide. Now let's proceed to integrating gender and privacy into MIL policy. Next slide. First is the UNESCO's framework. What is UNESCO's framework? In UNESCO's framework, all policies must link to gender equality and privacy protection or inclusive digital citizenship. In UNESCO's framework, there are, next slide, four key perspectives. Next slide, please. The first key perspectives is the convergence. The convergence is aligned on MIL, gender, and privacy with national development plans. That national development plans is a plan to lessen those privacy risk on social media. The next one is the human rights. Position privacy as a fundamental right and uphold equality using MIL. Next slide. And the next one is the from protectionism to empowerment, is to move beyond safety and to building advocacy skill. The next slide. The last one is the knowledge, society, and culture diversity, which is to adopt local cultures and languages. Next slide. Connected to this, do cultural or traditional beliefs in our area often limits gender equality, and why? Next slide. In rural area, they talk about the traditional roles, family expectation, and discrimination. While in urban area, lack of opportunities, religious beliefs, and how old views hinder progress and equality. Next slide. Rural points to the daily practices, roles, family influence, and direct unfair treatment as barrier, while urban sees them as causing lack of opportunities, influenced by beliefs, and showing how slowing down overall development. Overall, both recognize tradition as barriers. Rural perspectives highlight immediate social practices, while urban perspectives emphasize wider systematic effect. Next slide. And let's proceed again to the integrating gender equality, integrating gender and privacy into MIL policy. Next slide. First is the policy goal. What is policy goal? The overarching policy goal is a goal to create environment where all gender can safely access, create, and share information. This policy goal is centered on gender equality on privacy. Next one, we also integrate the gender into SDG goal, which is on my topic. The SDG goal that is connected to this is the SDG goal 5. Next slide. The SDG 5. What is SDG 5? SDG 5 is, or also we know, to achieve gender equality and empowerment to all women and girls everywhere. So it aims to end discrimination, violence, and unfair treatment against women and girls everywhere. It ensures they have equal rights, opportunities, and voice to politics, economy, and daily life. Next slide. Again, as connected to this, tell me something about this image. So it's basically, this image is about human rights. So next slide. So in rural area, they see this image as the basic freedom and the right that everyone naturally has. While in urban, they answer the action, value that needed protection and responsibility to maintain in society. Next slide. So the rural views human rights as basic freedom and natural and entitlements for everyone, while in urban views it as value that needed protection, action, and shared responsibility in society. So overall, both acknowledge human rights as the essential. Rural views focuses on what's right are, while urban views stress how they should be upheld and protected. Next slide. Now let's proceed to integrating again the national, international perspective and local perspective. Next slide. Let's start with the national perspective, perspective. In international perspective, UNESCO emphasized that social media possess high risk to young girls' well-being, learning, and career choices by amplifying gender stereotype, facilitating on cyberbullying, and infringing on gender on privacy. In privacy, leading to negative mental health impact. To counteract this, UNESCO's champion media and information literacy, or the MIL, as a crucial for empowering youth to critically evaluate, combat gender disinformation, and navigate digital spaces safely, while also advocating for gender sensitive privacy policies and ethical platform designed to create a more equitable online environment. Next slide. So on the local perspectives, the Magna Carta, the original 1215 Magna Carta, while Foundation for Rights did not address gender equality, however, in the context of contemporary concerns, especially in country like our country, the Philippines, the Magna Carta of Women is highly relevant. These modern legislation actively combats gender discrimination by moderating non-discriminatory portrayals of women in media, promoting gender sensitive education and inherently protecting women's rights, which extend to their digital privacy and overall well-being. This comprehensive approach directly influences youth by shaping media narratives, educational content, and societal norms around gender equality. Next slide. So for the next question is, do you think young people should be involved in our community and involved in making decision about gender equality policies in our community? In rural, 86% strongly agree, while 8% disagree. In urban, 56% agree, and 42% strongly agree, while 2% disagree. Next slide. The rural is very strong support and trust in youth participation, while in urban also also supportive, but views it um, as a normal part of the process rather than something is strongly emphasized. Overall, both support youth involvement. Rural respondents show strong enthusiasms, while urban respondent view is as a standard and accepted practice. Next slide. Another question is, do you think youth-led initiative can make a real difference in creating a more spaces, equitable spaces? So basically, the youth-led is those activities or clubs or group that help the youth lead to make initiative in real differences to our problem this age. So next slide. I know, no, in rural, 48% strongly agree, while while 46% agree and 6% disagree. While in urban, 88% strongly agree, 10% agree, and 2% disagree. Next slide. In rural, confident in youth effort, but sees their impact as helpful yet limited. While in urban, very high confident with clear beliefs that these actions create meaningful and visible change. Overall, both trust youth can drive change. Urban respondents have a strong certainty in their impact, while rural respondents have positive but more balanced views. Next slide. So, in conclusion, next slide. I'm gonna use this image as my conclusion. Can anyone share their insight about this image? Anyone, please? Okay. So both gummy bears are equally sweetened and attractive, yet only the unwrapped one is warm because the wrap act as the barrier that controls access. Privacy functions exactly the same way. Your personal details like the sweetness naturally draw interest, but when protected, they remain secure and untouched. Removing that protection does not change what you are or have. It simply removes the barriers that block access, making you vulnerable to unwanted attention, intrusion, or exploitation. This proves that privacy is not about hiding anything, but about maintaining control over who or what gets access to what belongs to you. So next slide. So thank you. That would be all for gender equality. Next slide. To our all overall discussion, in today's digital age, privacy is a critical issue that affect young people across multiple dimensions of life. From a economic perspective, unequal access to digital tools and knowledge can limit education opportunities, career choices, and future stability, making privacy awareness essential for achieving equal opportunities and a better quality of life. From social perspective, understanding privacy through media and information literacy or the MIL allow youths to question norms, become more responsible digital citizens, and build safer online communities. Meanwhile, the political perspective highlights how policies, power is structure, and individual beliefs that shape how privacy is protected or neglected, emphasizing the importance of youth participation and advocating for strong protectionism and fair digital environment. In the terms of environmental perspective, while young people are aware of global issues like climate change and use digital platforms to raise awareness, privacy concern and limited support system can hinder their ability to take large scale action. Lastly, gender inequality reveals that privacy risks are not experienced equally. Women and marginalized groups face greater threats online, making MIL a vital tool for powering inclusivity, safety, and empowerment in digital spaces. Overall, strengthening media and information literacy among youth is key to addressing privacy challenges across these perspectives. By equipping young people with the knowledge, skill, and support they need, society can foster a more equitable, informed, and secure digital future for all. And that would be all for our presentation as a group. Thank you for listening, everyone. I hope you learned a lot with us, and that will be all. Thank you.